the Saint Sava Cathedral, the fourth biggest Orthodox church in the world and the biggest in Serbia. Which makes sense given that we're in Serbia's biggest city, Belgrade. Belgrade has a urban population of 1.23 million people and is also the capital of the Republic of Serbia. And it's also the most popular and trendy city to visit in Serbia. So join me, won't you, as we explore the city and learn a thing or two along the way. One of Europe's most important prehistoric cultures evolved in this area that we now call Belgrade. The Vinca culture, which was here in the 6th millennium BC. The city was then occupied by the Celtics, who were later conquered by the Romans. The area was then settled by Slavs in the 520s, and then control over the area changed hands many times, from the Byzantine Empire to the Frankish Empire to the Bulgarian Empire, and then to the Kingdom of Hungary. Until it was, after a few unsuccessful attempts, eventually conquered by the Ottoman Empire in 1521. After getting conquered, Belgrade quickly became the Ottoman Empire's second largest city in Europe, only after Constantinople. And this was despite the fact that the majority of the Orthodox population of the area had been forced to leave to Istanbul, to an area that is now called the Belgrade Forest. So at the beginning of the 19th century, Belgrade's population was mostly Muslim. So there were now mosques in the city, bazaars, and just in general a lot of structures with typical Muslim architecture. And this Muslim architecture continued to define the look and feel of the city for several decades, even after Serbia had now been independent from the Ottoman Empire. So given the many battles and wars that Belgrade had been a part of, the majority of the older architecture from the building, from architecture of this city, is from the 19th century and beyond. And between 1835 and 1850, the amount of neoclassicist and Baroque buildings south of the Austrian border rose considerably. Probably best exemplified by the St. Michael's Cathedral that we're looking at right now. Which was completed in 1840. And then from 1850 to 1875, the new architecture was characterized by the newly popular Romanticism mixed with older European architectural styles. So we're looking at one of the federal government buildings here. The House of National Assembly. So we're now in Republic Square, where one can find the National Museum that we're looking at right now. Which is next to the National Theater. And now we're on the Knez Mihailova Street, pedestrian street, where Belgrade's hippists go to be seen. In 1882, when the Kingdom of Serbia was formed, Belgrade was once again a city of crucial importance in the Balkans, and it began to develop at a rapid pace. Well, as rapid as Serbia could develop, given that it was still an agrarian country at that point, even if there was now a railroad joining Belgrade to Niš, which is Serbia's second city in the south. And that positive growth continued until 1914, when Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, kickstarting the First World War. And given Belgrade's strategic location which is at the confluence of the Sava and Danube rivers. It was a heavily fought after city, probably the most fought after in the Balkans during the First World War. So in 1914, it was conquered by Austria-Hungary, but Serbian forces eventually managed to get it back, only to lose it in 1915 to German troops. Until 1918, when the city was liberated by Syrian and French troops. So after all these battles, Belgrade was decimated, and many had left the city. Making Subotica a city in the northern edge of the country the biggest city. After the war, Belgrade was made the capital of the new kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. So of Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia, who had now become a country. And following this, the city grew and modernized quickly. In 1931, the city had a population of 239,000 people, and by 1940 that population had jumped to 320,000 people. It was during this time that Belgrade's first airport and radio station were built. And there was also the construction of the Pančevo Bridge to cross the Danube, and the King Alexander Bridge to cross the Sava River. In 1941, the Yugoslavian government, in an attempt to stay neutral in the Second World War, signed a pact with the Axis powers. Which was not well received by the Yugoslavian people. There were mass protests, and then that was followed by a military coup. So the authorities were taken out by force. And then later, during the war, Yugoslavia was invaded by German, Italian, Hungarian, and Bulgarian forces. And during this time, the city suffered from many bombings. But thankfully, the structures in Kalemegdan Park, which are the oldest in the city, were not destroyed. Kalemegdan Park sits near the confluence of the Sava and of the Danube River, and it is one of the more popular, or probably the most popular attraction here in Belgrade, because it is the location of the Belgrade Fortress. Let's see some of the remains here. And this is where the earliest civilizations in the area were located, because of its strategic location here on top of this hill. You could see everyone coming in by the river. There's evidence that the Celtic tribe from the 3rd century BC had settled here on this hill. And this is where Belgrade started as a city. By that I mean the entire city was within these walls here in Kalemegdan Park at one point. And this is where all the battles in between the different empires that I mentioned previously would have been fought. So I hope you enjoyed this city tour and history of Belgrade, Serbia's biggest and capital city. I made some other videos of cool cities to visit in northern Serbia, such as Subotica that I mentioned earlier in this video, and of Novi Sad, which makes for an easy day trip from Belgrade and is in itself a location worth visiting. I also made another video, a longer video, called Journey Through Northern Serbia, where I bicycled through this half of the country. A video where you can see what the smaller towns look like in Serbia and what Serbian hospitality is like. Something I received a lot of during my journey. It was a pretty interesting time and one that I surely won't forget. So that's definitely a cool video if you want to see what Serbian people are like. Then next up on the channel, I'll be continuing to bicycle through the country. So bicycling through southern Serbia and checking out some more cool cities with interesting history on the way. And this was all part of a larger journey, bicycling through Central and Eastern Europe. And before that, I bicycled from Cape Town, South Africa, to Nairobi, Kenya. So bicycling through half of Africa. And before that, I went from Canada and bicycled all the way to southern Patagonia in Argentina. And all those videos are available on this same YouTube channel, Hum of the Earth. And if you'd like to see an interactive map of everywhere that I went and everything that I got to see and do, I have that available over on my website, followthehumoftheearth.com. Where you can click on the various locations and see the different blog posts and videos that I've made of these places. And if you'd like to follow my continuing adventures, once again bicycling through Central and Eastern Europe, you can do so by clicking on the red subscribe button below the video and clicking on the bell to be notified when new videos come out. Alright, so that's gonna do it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one.